Good morning. I'm going to record this loving kindness practice this morning. It's something that so many people have difficulty with. Something about how we grow up, whether it's with the various different challenges that happen in our families, especially split ups and single parenting and people being caught up in their own things. And so children grow up often, way too many children grow up in America, and I suppose in other places too. I'm not as familiar with the other cultures. Some of them, yes, but not all of them. And we develop ideas about ourselves, very strong, very persistent ideas about ourselves as a result of these experiences. And they drive our interactions with people. They hamper our behavior. They cause all kinds of challenges to us. And one of the challenges they do is to make it very difficult to do loving kindness practice. I've had students who took, it was 2-3 years before they could actually begin to feel anything except resistance to offering intentions of loving kindness towards themselves. And it's because of these early childhood experiences and the growing up in the way so many of us did, where we should have been nurtured and clearly loved, clearly embraced, and yet for whatever reasons, we weren't. And the reasons may not have been malevolent. They may simply have been that our parents were stressed with just trying to survive. And so their behavior impacted us. And so did the behavior of anywhere else. And this is why it is so important to, before you begin the meditation each time, and also independent of the meditation, during the day, to focus on any moment, any fracture of a second even, where you felt good, you felt okay, you felt something positive. A sense of presence, or somebody smiled at you, or you looked into the eyes of a pet, and it clearly was looking back at you with unconditional love. There are all kinds of tiny moments that can make an enormous difference in a person's life, and particularly now, because in this era of COVID, this pandemic, where none of our usual resources are really available to us. Most of us are stuck at home. We don't know if we're going to have an income. It's very challenging to even go to the grocery store. We don't know if we're going to be infected, and whether, if we are infected, whether we'll even have insurance that can pay for treatment, and whether we would even survive treatment, or if we survive, whether we would survive without long-term permanent damage. There's too many unknowns right now for us to be able to hang on to our usual threads of feeling safe and feeling okay. And so anxiety has come up for many people. And it's quite normal for it to happen. But to do this practice can be a major antidote for anyone, whether or not we're feeling anxiety, whether or not we're feeling fear. And the beginning always is to try to remember some moment in your life. Because even if we have been traumatized, even if we've had a very painful growing up, there's been some moment somewhere. Maybe even a teacher smiled at us. Maybe we have children and And we can hug a child and send that love to that child that we didn't feel. And to feel it ourselves is part of that process. There's a lot we can do in just tiny little movements that will make a difference. So each time you encounter one of those moments, as you go about your daily life, and this is an ongoing practice, tune in, stop for a moment, allow yourself to enjoy it. Allow yourself to be embraced by it. And then at other times, recall that moment or another moment when, again, you felt fine, you felt good, you felt even better than good. You felt at peace, you felt loved, whatever it was. It doesn't matter, so long as it was a positive feeling and that you could feel it. And you re-up that feeling. In essence, you return to that moment, independent of circumstances, because you don't want to get into what happened before and what happened later, because they might be negative. It's just that moment of peace that is vital and will be healing for you and will be a lifeline, really, for you. So the more times during the day you can stop for a moment and just recall that moment and recall it in your body. Feel the feelings. This is the important part. It's not about remembering the story. It's not remembering kind of in your mind how it felt. It's about feeling it again in your body. In this way, it exerts a tremendous amount of healing power. And that healing is so essential right now. Even if we don't feel like we need to be healed, we can be uplifted. We can be given respite. We can be in a positive mind state. It balances out our negativity bias of the brain. It's really important right now. So go there now. Recall a moment when it was really good, as good as it could have been in that moment. And there are many different opportunities in people's lives. For example, I've named some of them when somebody smiles at you. And unfortunately, nowadays, with our masks, it's hard to determine whether somebody's smiling or not. But in the past, somebody somewhere smiled at you. Whether it was a child, whether it was an adult, even a stranger on the street. I can tell you, in my own life, when I was 16 years old, I ended up in the hospital with appendicitis. It was a very crowded hospital. In fact, the first night I was in a bed out in the hallway. Then they found a room. I was in a room with 3 elderly women. And I won't go into the details, but I had a traumatic growing up. And in the middle of the night, I was awake. And the woman that came to clean the room came and had such wonderful, beautiful, caring energy. And the funny thing is, she offered me a True Confessions magazine, which was something I was always forbidden to read. But just the fact that she cared, and it was clear that she cared. There was such a nurturing presence for her. I never saw her again. I was in the hospital several more days, but she never appeared again. But just to feel honored, to feel cared about by even a stranger, it was phenomenal for me. I still remember that moment, those moments. There can be other times, if you're have an affinity with water, to being in a boat on the water, or to be swimming, or to be walking along the edge of a lake with the waves lapping on the shore, to be out in the woods. Forests are quite healing. To, as I said earlier, to look into the eyes of a pet that is looking to you for joy, offering unconditional love to you. You can be way up in the mountains after a long hike. You're tired, but oh my God, the vista is so amazing. Or the classic thing of a sunset. And I guess the upside of this Saharan dust storm that we're beginning to receive in the United States is that we should be getting some pretty fantastic sunrises and sunsets. Whatever it is for you, go there now. Feel it. Let it fill every cell in your body. Feel it expand. Enjoy it. Let it renew you. Let it refresh you. Let it remind you that you're a wonderful human being and you deserve being honored, being accepted, being loved, because you do. There's a certain amount of time that is optimal for keeping this feeling going. I don't recall what it is exactly, but if you read the book Buddha Brain, I think it's either spelled out there or it's spelled out in Getting the Buddha Brain, which is a subsequent book. But the most important thing is to feel it. And if you find it difficult to feel, if you find yourself like this, I don't deserve this, resistance, whatever you want to call it, go and feel that. Tune into that sense of resistance and feel that as fully as possible. And you'll know that you have felt it fully if it begins to dissolve. And if you're doing this on your own with a metta meditation, you don't have to go the full gamut. You can choose things that you can dare feel like, okay, yes, I deserve to feel okay. I deserve to feel safe. I deserve to be free of suffering, and so on. We'll do a more broad version of this here. But again, if you find yourself with resistance, tune in. That is the way to melt the resistance. And it can take quite a bit of time, but dare to walk in. Dare to feel the anguish. Dare to feel the anxiety. It's only an illusion, even as the source of it is not to be denied, and the impact of it is not to be denied. But these things happen then, and you don't need to keep carrying that burden on your back. You can let it down. And here's one very effective way to begin letting it down. So hopefully you've hung on to that feeling of feeling good while I was talking. But if not, re-up it. Take a moment again to picture that experience and then to feel it in your body. And then to allow it to grow, that feeling, until it fills your whole being. And continue to feel it as you silently repeat to yourself these intentions of loving kindness toward yourself. And we start with that first stage of the metta practice. We don't jump over it, because if we cannot truly offer intentions of loving kindness towards ourselves, it is essentially impossible to really do it towards others. we can go through the motions, but there's something held back. Honoring ourselves allows us to honor others. And I'm not saying here that you're not honoring others if you don't honor yourself, but it's very, very difficult. And you can improve the odds by offering intentions of loving kindness and receiving them and accepting them for yourself, because you do deserve it. May I be happy. May I be free of pain. May I be free of anxiety. May I be free of fear. May I be filled with loving kindness, embracing myself and making it possible to embrace others equally. May I be free of anger, which doesn't mean that it doesn't come up, but that I know how to work with it to allow it to dissolve so I don't react. And in becoming free of anger, so that I'm free of reactivity, may I understand the optimal way to respond instead. May I be filled with peace. May the great abundance of compassion and wisdom that lies within me, with everyone, rise and be expressed freely in everything I do or say or think. May I be increasingly generous and kind-hearted. May I have moments of gratitude, and may I really relish them. May my mind become ever more clear and let go so that I can see clearly without being caught in my history. May I truly be free of suffering. May I truly be free.